Hello, Bite-Sized Bible in a Year, chronological edition for April 10th. We read 1 Samuel 4:12 through 18. No, that would have been a lot. 4:12 through chapter 8. Okay, so when we open up in chapter 4, it's the worst day ever. The Israelites have been defeated. The people have been slaughtered. Eli, both his sons and his daughter-in-law, all have died. And to top it off, the Ark of the Covenant, which represents the presence of the Lord, has been captured by their enemy, the Philistines, and carried off. And we hear the despair of Israel in the words of the daughter-in-law right before she dies. She says, "The glory of the Lord has departed Israel." And you have to imagine that they were all feeling that way. Like I said, the Ark of the Covenant represented the presence of God. And I can't even imagine the Israelites, as they're seeing it carried off into captivity, they must have felt alone and scared. It must have felt confusing and dark. But what I want us to see is that even though that's happening in chapter 4, in chapter 5, we see what happens when the ark is carried off. And everywhere the ark goes with the Philistines and every town it hits, the people surrounding it who are not worshiping God break out in boils, which they were probably, that disease was probably carried by rats, which is why when they returned the ark, they returned it with an offering of golden boils and golden rats. That's probably why. And so it's this disease and it's these boils breaking out. And side note, some of the commentaries I read said that they could have been rectal. I'm just saying, ew. So they didn't want any of that. So it gets passed around. So can you see that over here Israel is having darkness and despair, but outside of their vision, God is working. He's doing something. He's causing them to bring the ark back. And so if you're looking around your circumstances today and you go, I don't know where God is in this. I don't see any possible solution. I don't understand it. I feel no hope for this one situation. Can we have enough trust today to go, you know what? God is working something. I can't see it right now. It's outside of my vision, but God is faithful. And I'm going to trust him because he's for me and he's doing something. So I'm going to trust him. Can we do that today? And then in chapter 6, the ark gets returned to the Israelites. And it says in 7:2, the ark remained in this town for a long time, 20 years in all. During that time, all Israel mourned because it seemed the Lord had abandoned them. So the ark was there, but they still felt like God had abandoned them. And it made me think, like, is God showing himself around me in my circumstance that I feel like is helpless or hopeless or has no solution? Is God there and he's showing me and I'm just not seeing it? And so let's ask God that today. Like, in this circumstance, God, I'm going to trust you. Will you show me what you're already doing that I'm not seeing yet? Then we move on to chapter 7. Samuel, after 20 years of the ark being back in the Israelites' possession, Samuel speaks out and leads Israel into worshiping God alone. He leads them into victory, and he leads them into peace. We don't want to miss that. They acknowledged God. God's presence was there. They shifted their worship to worship God alone, and from that came victory and peace. We can't miss that. What is the object of our worship? Are we worshiping self-help? Are we worshiping personal empowerment? Are we worshiping others' opinions? Or are we worshiping God in our circumstance and going, you know what? I'm going to trust you. I'm going to look for you. I'm going to wait on your timing. God, I trust you. And I worship you and know that you've got a plan for this. That's where the peace and the victory comes from. Their situation hadn't changed. The ark had been there for 20 years. Samuel just brought them back to worshiping it. So we need to bring our focus back to worshiping God alone. In that, we find peace and we find victory even before the circumstances change. Then in chapter 8, they start to ask for a king. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow because we get to read more about the king that they ask for. So today's reading, April 11th, is 1 Samuel 9 through 12. And we will talk about that tomorrow. Farewell.